Welcome to the Modern Sage podcast, everyone. I'm Leah Guy, your host. And as always, I'm very happy that you're here. Before we get started with today's episode, just a few reminders. If you want info on my retreats, my workshops, my books, one-on-one information, all of that is found on my website, leahguy.com. So join me there or on social media at Leah the Modern Sage. And as you know, every week I try to bring an interesting topic or a very interesting guest. And today I'm super excited. We have a gentleman who has been a therapist. He is a best-selling author. He's a social media rock star. He shares his personal life and his work life on social media, and he's gained a very strong following doing so. And he's known as the Angry Therapist. We have today John Kim. Hi, John.
Hey, I've never been called a social media rock star.
You
That's
are.
interesting. I don't even
Well,
know what that means, but that's
I
interesting.
just, well, you're a rock star. You like on your motorcycle, you're,
Mm.
with your kid, you're out on the bike and sharing your life. To me, that's kind of a rock star.
That's not what rock stars do. Hang out with
Rock stars
kids
play
and
music,
they play music. There's groupies involved. Yeah, they're traveling the world.
but they're
But
cool
anyway,
like that,
thank you.
They're kind of
I
cool like
appreciate you.
that. And you have a rock star vibe, especially I just went on Instagram before I met with you today and you posted this image of you and your wife. And I
Mm,
actually left a comment because your the
the
comment under the
caption.
picture that you wrote, the caption, yeah, it was so beautiful and poetic. I mean, it was just
Oh,
incredible. But I have to say, the picture itself, even if you said nothing, that picture says all of that. It
oh,
was,
because we're not smiling. We're kind of
it's
we're serious.
no, it's just you, you see the work that you both have done. You see the love
Mm.
between you. You see the strength individually. You see the hardship on your faces. You see the earnestness of your togetherness. You see the love. Like it's all there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's called Love is the Ghost That Won't Leave You Alone. That's what you read, right?
Yes. I did a one woman show last summer about healing the ghosts of your past.
Mm,
And my tagline of that is that houses aren't haunted, people are. So
mm.
I loved your writing today. Yeah. Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
let's get to why we're here. So you are a prolific writer as well, as we were just talking about, not just on social media. You have a lot of books under your belt and an interesting background. So your latest book is called Break Up on Purpose. For those watching, I'll show it here. It's a pretty simple title. Your writing is succinct and to the point, and I love it. So tell
Oh,
us
thank you.
about this last book, and because you're married and yet you're writing
Mhm.
about being single on purpose was one of your best sellers, and now Break Up on Purpose.
I know. This book came from me working with clients and realizing that when it comes to healing from a breakup, there's no one fits all. And I realized we go through so many different types of breakups, and we've never talked about all the different types of breakups. We have like the love languages, we have all these other books about, the five this, the four that. And there are actually different types of breakups, and depending on what you're going through, there's going to be a different prescription. So the book hangs on the 8 different types of breakups that we all grow through. And the message of the book is that your breakup can be actually a catalyst for your growth, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to tell you, John, this is not common for me, even for a book that I love. I read every word of your book,
Oh, thank you.
every one.
Most of the podcasts that I do, no one has read the books, no one has the time, so they just kind of hold it up, and then we just talk about something entirely different.
Yeah. Well, I kind of went through a breakup last year, but this is my work.
Mm,
This is my life as well. I'm constantly
right,
working
right.
with clients and groups, and I wanted to see your take and also just how you and I resonate so much on, a
Mm,
lot of these ideas and so forth. So I really enjoyed it. Your writing it's refreshing because it's simple and practical, and that's the way I write as well. And I just think, it gets to the point. And
street level, just
yeah,
simple. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and yeah, it's good. So whether you're going through a breakup or planning to break up, or if you've ever broken up in the past, this is
Mm-hmm,
a great book to read because you can also work through some of your older stuff,
mm-hmm.
patterns perhaps, or unresolved grief or
Yeah,
pain, feeling rejected, self-worth stuff with this book.
yeah. Lots of residue. We all carry some kind of breakup residue from our relationships.
So, John, how is it for you being a therapist that's so public? I know you do share very authentically, and that's one of the reasons people like you. But you're a therapist who's in the midst of raising a child being in a marriage, having changed your life completely over the last 20 years or so,
Hmm.
and also helping people. So, do you find it, I don't know, I guess, easy, refreshing, natural to share the fullness of yourself? Or do you feel like you have to somehow meet other people's expectations of you?
No, I think I got lucky in that I had a long runway because I started on Tumblr. Remember Tumblr back
Oh,
in the
yeah.
day? This was before social media. So after my divorce, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I was broke. I couldn't afford a therapist. So I got on Tumblr and I started blogging. I didn't think anyone would read it. I called it the Angry Therapist, and I just started to document my inner journey. It became public, and that's where I got traction. But because of that, I just kind of it became my life. I enjoyed it. And when social media came out, I just rolled it into that. And so I don't even feel like I know there's terms like content creator, influencer, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. I don't see myself that way. I just see myself as someone who's documenting his story. So I've always been transparent, vulnerable, and nothing has changed other than just going from one platform to a different platform.
Yeah. Well, is it true that when you kind of started either blogging or coming online social media that you resonated or captured more of a male audience because of the angry therapist and the personal things that you were going through?
Yeah, I've accidentally kind of become a Trojan horse because after my divorce, I bought myself a motorcycle and then I got some tattoos and then I found fitness, CrossFit. So I tell people I found myself through barbells, motorcycles, and donuts. And so I think a lot of men can just relate to those activities. But then I also talk about my feelings and I write about love and and our inner journey. And so I think I could get some buy-in with men, and then I start talking about things that we don't in the locker room, if you will.
Yeah.
So
And then you've picked up I don't know if is it equal share of women audience as well? I know you have a
yeah,
co-ed
no,
retreat
I
now.
had more I started with more women. Now men are coming. And I think I projected some kind of idea of a man or about love. And everyone on social media, there is a kind of a poster that you're projecting, right? And so um a lot of women, I think, found what I was talking about interesting or relatable because it was about love,
Well,
breaking
let's talk
things.
about that for a minute before we get into the nitty gritty of the book, because well, I do emotional healing work and spiritual growth work. And I think
Mm,
I have a pretty high number of male followers historically. And
mm,
but that high number is only like 35, 40% men
mm-hmm,
and then the rest
mm-hmm.
women.
Yeah.
I know that women, just because of I think how we process and how we attend to self care and nurturing, so forth, are more interested or involved in this kind of thing. Do you like with your books? Do you write for equal, or do you know that more women are going to purchase your books? Where are you with all that?
I don't try to think of who's going to buy my book. I just
Mm-hmm.
try to write something that resonates with me and that's honest. For example, I wrote a book called "I Used to Be a Miserable Fuck,"
Mm-hmm.
and on the outside, it's a book for men, but more women ended up buying it and giving it to their partners and stuff. And so I try not to predict who's going to
Yeah,
buy it, because then you're writing something more for sale than for yourself.
yeah.
For
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I get that. It's funny that the women bought the book for their partners, but also
Yeah.
women like to understand. We like to
Hmm.
understand men. We
Yeah, absolutely.
we thrive on all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I took some notes from your book because, like I said, I did read every word. And
Mm.
there's a few things that I wanted to focus on today because I see that all the time with my client work as well. Are you still seeing one-on-one clients, or no? Do you just do retreat?
Here and there, mostly intensives. They come to my house and I hang out with them for 2 days, 2 or 3 days. So
Oh wow, do they spend the night?
intense. No, no, no. We don't sleep in the same room.
You don't have slumber
They get a
parties?
hotel. Yeah. But I take them on a journey for a couple days, and it's kind of an intensive thing I love doing.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. I love working with people out in nature and just kind of in
Yeah,
natural elements.
yeah.
Yeah.
Off Zoom. I'm
Yeah.
tired
I
of
know.
Zoom. Yeah,
God, Zoom, I
yeah.
know. But thank God for it, for like this and
Sure.
COVID, whatever.
Hmm.
Okay, so one of the ways that you talk about relationships that are ending is that they have simply expired. And I really love
Hmm.
that because it shifts the perspective of like something's wrong with me. They did something, to just simply that perspective that maybe it's just complete. Maybe it's
Mm,
just, the expiration date has been met.
yeah.
And when I
Yeah.
think of soul contracts, or just like, that kind of thing, it just really resonated with me.
Yeah, and maybe because you see life through a spiritual lens, that term helped me a lot with my divorce, because the word breakup feels very, like cast, just rupture of this big tragic event, catastrophic. But the word expiration, there's acceptance in that. There's peace. There are also people that don't like it because you're comparing your relationship or marriage to milk. It's like I was on Armchair Expert once, and I remember Dak Shepard was like, I don't know if I like that. We didn't get into it because we started talking about something else, but I was really curious to see why he didn't like that. We never got there, but I think there are a lot of people who don't like the term that your relationship has expired. But it has helped me tremendously. It makes me believe that it wasn't meant to go a day further
Mhm.
or end the day sooner. But also, it shouldn't be an excuse to not work on the relationship. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be
Right.
like,
Yeah.
oh, it's getting hard. It's expired. I'm out. It
Right.
wasn't meant
Starting
to
to smell
be.
sour. Yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't be used as an exit door.
Well, I think of it too, like the way I speak of it is an energetic match. And I truly believe when we're energetically mismatched with someone, no matter what
Mm-hmm.
we do, it's not going to work, or it's just going to be like a form of self-torture. And we
Mm-hmm.
are, our energy shifts all the time, and our life changes all the time,
Right.
and we have so
Right.
much control over that. But it's a similar kind of thing, like, there is acceptance of that, of kind of releasing blame or guilt either direction, and
Mm-hmm.
just acknowledging, okay, we've come as far as we can come now. Do you believe? I don't believe love expires. Do you believe love expires? I think love is kind of,
No, I think love is formless
yeah.
and endless, infinite. When you say that, did you say energies match and
Match.
align and
Mhm.
don't? Um, do you think that they're all there? So if they match, is it a constant, or do you think that we kind of touch and go? Like sometimes we
Yeah,
match, some days we don't.
I think
Can
it
you?
fluxes a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that we can experience what might feel like a match, what we might call like the trauma bonding, or the polar
Mm-hmm.
opposites, attracting.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a match, but that's when we're kind of connected to work on or see ourselves, have the mirror and
Mm-hmm.
work on our stuff. But there's
Yeah.
got to be some kind of alignment. And then sometimes, I mean, I'm sure you've seen this with people. There's maybe one person in the partnership that is doing a lot of work on themselves, or having awakenings or healings from their past and so forth, and maybe the other person doesn't. And then what happens? That person has the opportunity to understand, and they don't have to get on the same bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
But as you call in the book, there starts the drift, perhaps,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's okay, because we are always changing and growing. It's like when people have friends from, say, high school, and they had this expectation that you're supposed to be friends forever based on history. And no, it's okay if you're not friends forever. I do love the loyalty aspect. I think it's more predominant in the East Coast than West Coast, but um, history alone, I say, isn't enough for friendship, because people change. I think also in relationships, you can be aligned, um, and then you can grow and also not be aligned, just part of the human experience.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I also loved what you said in the book about friendships, meaning much more to you now than
Yeah.
in your younger days. And in some ways, friendships are, it's a hard loss when we, separate or have space
Mm-hmm.
or terminate a friendship. It's like a slow burn versus this maybe deep heartache that we feel in a love relationship, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
challenging.
I learned this lesson through my current partner, because she values friendship so much. When I thought romantic love, because I'm a kind of a hopeless romantic, I thought love meant friends are secondary. Who cares? You have your person. That person is everything. Friends are extra. And then, after my divorce, I realized, oh, well, if the relationship doesn't work out, then you have no friends. But these days, realizing that the contribution to the relationship is that you need your own life and your own friends and your own, hobbies, passion. You're trying to come to the relationship as a kind of a more whole, complete person. So yes, of course, you should have your own friends.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing that you mentioned, that no one got away.
Yeah. The one that got away, I think it can be a dangerous or damaging term.
Tell us about that. What do you mean?
Well, if you feel that someone got away, then that means the person in front of you may not be the one. It may mean that this person that got away, that's the person I'm really supposed to be with. So it can keep you always kind of looking over the fence, or um, amplifying things that maybe uh, the disconnection in the relationship, but really um, exaggerating them because deep inside you believe that someone else is meant for you. So like the whole idea of the one that got away, or the whole idea of the one, I always say the one is the one in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Mm-hmm.
if you don't believe that, then you're going to be drifting, you're going to be wondering, you're going to be thinking, am I with the right person, like constantly.
I know. And also, if we have that belief, then it's like so much of our energy that we put into this one person, like they hold so
Mm,
much power over us. Like
right,
they're
right.
the only one.
No.
And it's,
Yeah,
wow.
there's
Yeah.
billions of us on the planet.
Yeah. To
Yeah.
me, I wonder, I'm just having this thought now, but I'm wondering if that belief or that notion to do that is kind of tied to whatever part of us, like our core wounds and things that we're feeling connected with or
Mm,
safe from or whatever with this one person, that we're not willing to see all the other people that could help us grow or see life
yeah.
differently or what have you. Maybe it's just such a tunnel vision kind of thing that feels somehow anchored and safe, but it's a trap, I think.
It is a trap, and I think we're meant to be with people sometimes that we may not initially even be attracted to, or maybe some people who don't kind of make sense, or people who are not our type, because all these type of connections are going to stretch you. They're going to make you
Yeah.
grow. I don't think we should just go to someone who knocks your socks off, or you have a certain type, and that's the only kind of person you date, because I feel like there's less stretch in there.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I know. So I want to sidebar just for a moment. This book and your last couple, I believe, are all focused on intimate relationships, primary
Mm-hmm.
relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're a general therapist. General may not be the right word, but
Generic. I'm a generic
no,
therapist.
I mean, would you consider yourself a love specialist under the field of therapy? Is that what you primarily do
No,
with couples?
I think because I started talking about love because I was going through a breakup, divorce. But I'm a licensed therapist. I'm a licensed marriage family therapist on paper. But I do everything from men's work to divorce to retreats to yeah. I mean, I talk a lot about love. I do, but I wouldn't consider myself like a love coach or a love therapist.
I'm curious in your work, how much of the other stuff comes up? How much of like, you know, trauma and ancestral work and family dynamics and that kind of
Mm.
thing come up in your work?
It always comes up because
Mm-hmm.
it's baked into everyone and their story. Um, you know what I think? If you were to put a hat on me, it would be relationships, including the relationship with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So more than just love, it's building a relationship, a healthy relationship, um, with yourself, and obviously with someone else.
Why do you think people are so resistant to that?
To building a healthy relationship.
Yeah, with themselves.
Well, first, I think we don't know how. Who
Mm-hmm.
who teaches us?
Yeah.
It's very trial and error. Usually, you start working on yourself when you've lost something. So whether that's a marriage or custody or a job, um, it's interesting. I think as adults, we spend most of our time trying to heal from the wounds that we went through as children.
Yeah. Right.
And a lot of building a better relationship with ourselves is that healing a lot of childhood stuff that happened.
I love when I'm working with a client and they say something along these lines, like they have a small child and they
Mm-hmm.
say, I feel so bad taking time away to go to the pottery class or whatever. And because I love this moment because it gives me an opportunity to say, please take advantage of this opportunity to teach your young person how healthy it is to take care of yourself, to love yourself, because that's what that little one will see. I mean, of course, we can't abandon them, but that people, parents now especially, have such an opportunity to change the dynamic in the belief system that has been kind of cooked into these paradigms and so forth, to show what it is to love themselves
Mm-hmm.
and have a life that can also include loving their child unconditionally and loving themselves.
Yeah, and also if you don't take care of you, then what state are you engaging with the child in? Probably, half empty, exhausted, frustrated, short
Right.
tempered. Taking care of yourself is going to make you bring a better version of yourself
Yeah.
to the child. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I
yeah.
love that. Okay, something else I wrote down, and I talk about these two things a lot also. Taking ownership
Mm-hmm.
and understanding, if not, then releasing the victim mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially one of the breakups is, the you cheated slash left me for someone else.
Yes, I wrote that one
Um,
down. Yeah.
the betrayal. And of course, on paper, you can be a victim. Someone may have done something to you. We are victims in this world, but the victim mindset makes us create our own prison,
Yeah.
And so this idea of someone did something to me, that's very powerless. And so to get your power back, you have to start taking ownership.
Mhm.
And no, you may not have been the one that cheated, but you were 50% of this relationship. Even if it's just the fact that you picked this person, you contributed something. Maybe you didn't speak up. Maybe you didn't, do life with this person, but instead around this person. But there are things that you contributed to the dynamic, Even if the cheating had nothing to even do with you or the relationship. A lot of times people cheat and it has more to do with their own stuff, whether it's addictions or wounds or, where they're at in their life. Um, and it's really hard to not take that personally. But there is something there in that dynamic where there are probably things that you might have felt, energy, a disconnect that wasn't addressed, and you were part of that too.
Well, you just finished the next question. The next two questions I was going to ask is what is one truth of people who cheat? And one of those truths is that it's usually or often not about the other person.
Yeah.
It's often about them, but it is so hard to not take that personally. As an example, at least from my end, I'm sure you have your examples, but in relationships, I come from kind of a codependent narcissist
Mm-hmm.
dynamic and learned to be very codependent in certain ways
Mm-hmm.
and how not to speak up. I
Right.
just learned
Right.
to it's okay. Can I tolerate this? If I can tolerate it, I'll just tolerate it. I'll just take that and just keep it moving because I don't want to have a blow up or whatever. And the damage that caused in relationships,
Yeah.
if I could go back and do anything differently, it would probably be that just to learn how to speak and
Mm-hmm.
share and not withhold, thinking that I was somehow saving the day or, say at least saving us from a knockdown, drag out fight.
Yeah, and all those are valid on why I mean, in a way, you're almost protecting yourself and the relationship. But what you're doing is you're doing life around that person instead
Mm-hmm.
of with that person. People who are confrontational, controlling, and possessive are doing life at that person. And
Mm-hmm.
so I always think about, am I doing life with this person, which requires self-expression, check-ins, vulnerability, and also like, here's how I want to be touched, or here's my, preferences and desires and fantasies. Or am I doing life around this person, meaning sweeping things under the rug, lots of eggshells, lots of not wanting to rock the boat. Um, and I think doing life with someone is difficult because it requires courage and vulnerability, transparency.
Yeah.
And these are things that we don't have a lot of reps in, a lot of practice in because of the way we grew up.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, it's like kind of a full-time job to take ownership and look at your own stuff. I've had some clients, and I've thought this way before too. I don't want to tell them what I like or how to treat me or how to talk to me or how to touch me. I want them to
Mm-hmm.
just know, because
Oh,
if they
yeah.
know, then they're somehow the magic one, or
Yes,
they're that one.
yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's so harsh. Like, how are they going to know? It's so much
Yeah.
easier for you to tell them and let them in on the game.
Yeah. And I wonder how much of that definition is, formed from, movies and media and books and, fantasies and, our,
Yeah.
our, our idea of love instead of what love really is.
Yeah. So what is love really to you?
I think first love is a choice.
Mhm.
I think it's a daily choice. Um, and I don't, I put more weight on like than love, because love is a choice, but like needs to be earned. If you love someone, like we love our family members, but we don't like all of our family members.
Mhm.
If you're with someone that you choose to love but you don't like, that's a big problem. That's not sustainable. You know, you have to respect, admire. There's other words because I think love is used so often that it's kind of it's lukewarm. Become kind of a bumper stick love.
Well, while we're here, if you would just give me a moment, I would like to actually read a paragraph from John's
Okay.
book. If you focus on the intention, the expansion, the possibilities, the something greater that comes from two whole people growing together, and less on the deal, the agreement, and all the what ifs, you will be more accepting if the relationship doesn't feel honest to you and does end. Acceptance, our underestimated superpower, will come from seeing love as a living, breathing thing rather than as something to be captured. Acceptance doesn't live in matching rings and official ties, it lives in pure presence. Feeling free is what makes you love because love is fueled by the ability to choose daily, one day at a time. Not promising to love every day for the rest of your life, that's not love. That's a lie. No one can promise you that. It's not the commitment that bears fruit, but the learning and sharing of life, the ups and downs and sideways, the collisions of the exchange. It's
Thank
so
you for
beautiful.
reading
Like
that.
I almost started crying. It's so
Mm.
beautiful.
Is that at the end? Is that the toward the end?
It's
I don't know where
page
that was.
236. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, no, it is beautiful. You have obviously, I mean, I don't have to tell you, you know this, but for the listener, maybe you're unfamiliar with John, you haven't read his books. You write so well, and I know that you were a writer previously. You wrote screenplays and so forth, right? Or
Yeah, a
attempting to.
different type of writer.
A different type of writer, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always been a passion of yours, I guess.
It has, and I carry this. I was a failed writer belief, a false belief. Now I believe that I was meant to be a screenwriter first, just to lay tracks and write because I write very fast. I used to spend 8, 9 hours in coffee shops just writing, put my head down and write, and I feel like that was kind of the training. So when I started to get book deals and write self-help books, the writing came so easy for me because I wrote tons of screenplays and it was very visual. So my writing then just kind of like rolled into self-help books and I write what I see.
Yeah, you do an excellent job. It's so descriptive. I love your analogies. I love the way you think, and it comes out effortlessly, and it's effortless to read. And that's one reason I read every page. Okay, so
Thank you.
another thing I wanted to mention here, and I didn't prep you with this, but the hope circuit versus the fear circuit. And I thought that
Yeah.
was an interesting, just interesting kind of easy, quick conversation of obviously a lot of people know, you're either in the state of fear, you're in the state of love, but thinking about these circuits that run in your brain and they can't be operating at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Most people, because of their stories, the fear circuit is, if like imagine a hose, it's turned on full blast.
Mm.
And so when they are maneuvering via fear, and I think because of their stories, self-protection, a lot of us had to grow up fast, trauma, a state of fight or flight. Um, it's really hard to turn that down or off and insert hope. You know what I'm saying? It's like almost like swimming upriver. It's hard
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
But it is true that fear and hope can't live in the same space. Like curiosity and judgment can't live in the same space. And so we have to actively practice hope actively. So our fear then becomes kinked, we have to also actively practice curiosity. So our judgment becomes kinked.
Mm-hmm.
And that is to me the daily practice. And if you're not intentional about it, it's not our default. We don't just do that.
Yeah. And, I'm not really a huge fan of like just, those cheesy affirmations and stuff like,
Yeah.
right. I mean, I think affirmations can have their place, mantras, all that kind of stuff. They can have their place. Even like gratitude, though. And you mentioned in the book, there's, it's easy for us to just go, oh, yeah, I'm grateful for the light. I'm grateful for the sun today. I'm grateful for my body. But when you really intentionally tune in to gratitude and that heart space that is connected to gratitude, it is a game changer. It changes, to me, it feels like it changes the chemistry inside my body.
Yeah. You could almost feel it going down like whiskey.
Yeah.
If you do it where you are intentional, and also you're not reading a list, but you're just using your senses to really feel deep gratitude for something very specific. You could feel it.
Yeah.
I think it changes your state. Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you putting that in the book. So in these 8 different types of breakups, you mentioned one, the someone cheated breakup.
Mm-hmm.
There's the divorce breakup. The one that I think, I've kind of seen floating around words around the what are certain people calling it? Well, you call it the almost relationship.
Yeah.
I think some people
It's
call it like the situationship or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think people minimize this. I think a lot of times we judge what a breakup should look like based on how long you were with someone. And so if you were with someone, say, for 3 months, your friends will say, well, what's the big deal? Why don't you just get over this person? But it's more about the intensity than the time. And
Mm,
so with the almost breakup, sometimes it's very difficult because it's the secondary loss. Everything that you were thinking about you could have had or what could have been, especially when things were going good. So if you're 3 months into a relationship and you guys are talking about, baby names and you guys have, design goals and house, and you guys have this huge future that you're super excited about that you have talked about, that loss is sometimes more difficult than the actual 3 months of the relationship. And so
mm.
the almost breakup sometimes can be crippling. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, I
Or
think
the almost relationship breakup.
the
Sorry.
almost relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
The almost breakup. That can be
Yeah.
crippling too.
Yeah.
That
Because you're
sends
not
you,
broken up.
yeah, that sends you into that other type of relationship, which I've had, the relationship breakup that never really ends. You just
Mm-hmm.
kind of keep going, break
Round
up and then
two,
come
round
back.
three. Yeah. Which is,
Yeah.
I think, can be more of a trauma bond.
Yeah. And I'm sure it probably is. And it's exhausting. Something I just thought about, and when we were sitting here talking, is that such low amount of people that will never experience a breakup. Now, these would only be two
Mm-hmm.
types of people, I think. Well, no,
Mm-hmm.
three. So a person who is never in a relationship.
Oh, like never really fully commits,
Yeah,
kind of
never.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So never in
Yeah.
a, or a person who, married their childhood sweetheart and they were that
Mm-hmm.
couple that we read about in People magazine. They died together in each other's arms when they
Mm-hmm.
were 90 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess a widow wouldn't necessarily, and a widow that didn't get into another relationship, if they
Mm-hmm.
lost somebody, they wouldn't necessarily experience a breakup, right?
They would experience loss and grief.
Right.
um but yeah, but they could still, I always say that after a relationship expires, so whether that is death or a breakup,
Mm,
there's always growth soil, and it's rich. There's always a period of, and I think it also calcifies, meaning there's a period of time, there's a window where you start reflecting on how you showed up, your piece in this, your patterns, your wounds. You start redefining love, like all of the stuff that's really valuable for the next one. And if you don't look at all that and you try to find someone else to love very fast, that's when it calcifies. Because when
mm,
you go into another relationship, you're going into another dynamic, right? And so you're 50% of that. It's very hard to then just grow and expand. Now you're part of something else that's greater than its parts. Yeah.
there's so many questions. I mean, okay, so how many people do you think enter into a new relationship and carry with them the same exact mentality, thoughts, feelings, etc., from their past relationship? Do you think that's more common than not?
I think it is because it takes courage and patience and sometimes tears. It takes a lot of rolling up your sleeves to not be with someone else, to be alone, to sit in your
Hmm.
own bathwater, to find yourself, as they say. That's hard.
To be
It's
single
lonely.
on
To be,
purpose.
yeah. It's I was single for 5 years, and I'll be honest, I wasn't doing it on purpose because I was lonely and I was trying to. I just no one was interested in me, so I spent a lot of time, riding my motorcycle and sitting alone in diners and being with myself and learning to like myself, which
Hmm.
was a good thing. It was a blessing in disguise, I guess.
Well, I'm a few years older than you. I think I'm 52 and I'm
Mm-hmm.
currently single right now. And I have to say, I am in love with myself, my life,
Mm-hmm.
everything in a way that I don't think I've ever
Mm-hmm.
experienced ever.
And why is that? What is happening? Or is it a mindset, or what's happening in your life for you to feel this way about you?
I think it's a culmination of years of work and therapy and
Mm-hmm.
understanding breaking patterns, like consciously
Mm-hmm.
trying to break patterns, and particularly in the past 12 months, I would say just complete dedication. And it
Mm-hmm.
reminded me of like you sharing in your book, and certainly complete dedication to what do I really need right now? What would it look like to be kind to myself right now?
Mm-hmm.
What would I find pleasure and enjoyment with right now? How can I take better care of myself right now? How can I reparent myself better right now?
Yeah.
And all of that, yeah, I love going to bed. I love waking up. I love having meals. There's no resistance in me. I mean, to the point
Yeah.
where I'm kind of wondering, I wonder if I'll be able to be in a relationship again,
Yeah.
I think so, but it's really it is hard. It's hard to be, single, I guess, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's such a prime opportunity for people to,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think many people need to hear that because
Mhm.
society has told us that we are less than unless we're partner. A big thing that's happening is people being self-partner. People saying, I actually don't want a relationship. I love what's happening now. It sounds like you're kind of there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that earlier. If you see a trend of people kind of consciously choosing themselves or choosing to remain single for an extended period of time, if not
Mm-hmm.
forever. Are you? If I think I heard somewhere there's less marriages or less coupling. Somehow, I mean, I'm near New York City here, so it seems like everybody's single in New York, but
Mm.
I don't know what the pulse is outside of here.
There's a lot happening. Yes, some of that, but there's also, I think, first time ever, monogamy being on trial. People even questioning if that's what they want. And so I think the big word is customization. There is no like
Mm.
right way anymore. There's what works for you. So whether it is I want to be single or maybe it's you want to have an open relationship or poly or whatever, we don't have to just paint with the primary colors anymore. We have the whole 45 crayons box set. And there's a lot less judgment. And I think it's partly generational, the Gen Z and millennials kind of like millennials starting this and being curious, and now Gen Z being more just fluid with everything and peeling labels. And so
Mm.
there's a lot of that happening. I'm 51, so I grew up with pagers, and I grew up before any of this, and so it's such a different world now.
Yeah. So are you saying, or do you believe people can have successful, healthy relationships in the poly world, in the non-monogamy world? There's even a EU, or I don't know all the terms. I'm not that
Yeah,
with
it
it, but
keeps there's something new every day.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you could have a successful relationship. I don't think a relationship has to be monogamous for it to be successful. I think it has to be for the right reasons. I think a lot of people open their relationship because they're trying to get something um that is missing in their current relationship. I don't think that's the way to do it. I think it's having a solid foundation and the couple wanting to now explore and be poly or open while the relationship has a solid foundation. I think that could work
Mm.
because now they're exploring together as opposed to here's what's missing, let's find it in someone else kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So there's also a lot of that happening and that not working.
That's interesting. So I have just a couple of personal questions for you, if you don't mind,
Okay.
before we
Yeah.
end today.
I've been
So
personal my whole time, my whole life.
yeah, yeah. So what are your biggest challenges now? They can be the same or different
Mm.
in your relationship or relationship with yourself. What are you still grappling with?
My relationship with myself is moving into the afternoon of my life. I'm a late bloomer. I had a child at 47. So being a dad to a 5-year-old daughter at 51 is all
Mm.
new and interesting. And so I'm learning how to do that, and going into my 50s, how I want to show up in my 50s, and 50s today is very different than 50s when we were
Yeah.
when I was 12. I thought a 50-year-old man was like, he's dead pretty much. He's done. He's got a walker and,
I know.
you
My
know,
grandmother was 55. I'll never forget. I was like, that's grandmothers and they look
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah, that's a young grandma. But I don't feel 51. I feel like I'm like early 40s and I'm vibrant. I've got a lot of life force. I'm in the most kind of like prime as far as like relaxed, not in that fight or flight. I feel like I'm the happiest I've ever been. So I think now is a good time to be a dad, I would not have been a good dad in my 30s or 20s at all. So um, some of those challenges, and then also with relationships, I'm learning about love every day, every year, redefining what love looks like. Vanessa has been one of my greatest teachers, not just her as a person, but what both of us have created. swimming past the breakers, working through our own shit. You
Mhm.
know, I've never been with a therapist before, so it's really good that we kind of speak the language. You know,
Are you two planning to do work together, books,
um,
retreats, or do
yeah,
you
yeah,
already?
we have collaborated. So whether it's on a book or retreats, we've collaborated. We also do our own thing. We've learned a lot, and I don't want to speak for her, but I think this has been probably the most difficult relationship for her because we've stayed in it and worked through so much, and at the same time, probably the most corrective relationship.
Mm.
You know, the corrective love experience. You know, for
Okay,
both
well,
of
so
us.
this is a perfect lead into the next personal question because I had forgotten. Sorry, but I had forgotten that Vanessa is a therapist. I remember seeing it on social media, but I'm glad you refreshed my memory there. The question is, do you get tired of talking about
Sure.
this stuff all the time?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, because you want to sometimes leave work at work.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're both therapists because we both believe in therapy and being better people and expanding. And so, you know, we don't have to talk about caseloads, but because you believe in that, a lot of the conversation is going to just be threaded into your life. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
it's like if you're with an artist and you're an artist, yes, you could put the brushes down and go do other things, but the way that you see the world as an artist
Yes.
is going to be as an artist. And so the way that we see the world through our therapeutic lens, her more depth psychology, me more just kind of street level. Um, it's threaded into our life. So it's not just about romantic love. It's how we want to show up as people, you know, who want to be in service, and also parents and friends, and, you know, all the other areas of life, not just the romantic.
What about out in the world though? So here's my confession. I had a healing center for a period of time and we did
Mm-hmm.
meditations and massage and
Mm-hmm.
Reiki and all that kind of stuff. And and similarly to you, it is my life. My whole life
Mm-hmm.
is, I feel like I'm a healing artist. Whatever I'm doing, it's kind of,
Yeah.
um it's in that realm somehow. But I have to have a very strong boundary with, especially people coming off the street or just, wanting to talk to you. Then all of a sudden they start laying down their problems or sharing their
Mm-hmm.
thing or wanting advice, So I feel like I have a pretty good boundary. But when I had this healing center, like we were playing flute music all day long and, all the
Mm-hmm.
Zen stuff or whatever. And at the end of the day, I was like, oh my God, fuck the
Yeah.
flute music,
Yeah. Yeah.
I needed to just have the opposite kind of experience, like, turn on the rock and roll or go for a
Right.
quick
I
jog or
agree.
something, right?
I agree. That's why I ride my motorcycle. That's why I go lift barbells. Um, that's why, you know, Vanessa and I go do other things. We don't just
Yeah.
run retreats and talk about relationships. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that there's that balance. Well, John, I appreciate your time so much.
Yeah,
And
thank you. Thank you for having me and creating this dialogue.
yeah, and for those listening and or watching, Break Up on Purpose by John Kim, the angry therapist. I guess the final question is, are you still angry?
No, I'm not angry. I was angry because I was unhappy. I'm a
Yeah,
lot happier now.
that's
But
great.
you know, the happy therapist isn't that interesting. So
Yeah.
I will remain the angry therapist.
It is a great name. Well, I thank you so much. And you can find all of John's information in our show notes and, of course, on social media at The Angry Therapist, and pick up one of his books. They're sold anywhere books are available. And I'm sure that you have something to learn from them, as did I. And John, I just thank you again for your work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a good day, everyone. We'll see you
You
next
too.
week on the Modern Sage podcast.